Is the U.S. Navy facing a war crimes inquiry over operations in the Caribbean? While Congress reviews shocking classified footage, Donald Trump claims a controversial new Peace Prize from FIFA. Meanwhile, the State Department issues an urgent do not travel warning for Venezuela as military assets move into position, and a new national security strategy signals a massive pivot away from Europe. We're breaking down the full global chessboard today. Before we dive in, please hit that like button to help the algorithm, and let me know in the comments. Which state or country are you watching from right now? Let's start with a developing story on Capitol Hill. Congress is currently debating the legality of recent U.S. naval operations in the Caribbean. Reports indicate there have been 22 intercepts of vessels suspected of trafficking, resulting in nearly 90 fatalities. The United Nations is already flagging these incidents as extrajudicial executions. The controversy deepened today after classified footage was shown to lawmakers. According to sources, the video shows a vessel struck by ordnance, leaving 2 survivors clinging to the wreckage. These men were reportedly shirtless, unarmed, and had no communication equipment. After struggling for an hour, they were allegedly engaged and killed on direct orders from U.S. command. If accurate, this violates the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, which strictly prohibits attacking shipwrecked combatants or those hors de combat. Democrats are calling for investigations, while Republicans are framing this as a necessary intensification of border and maritime security. This is a story that could escalate into a major political firestorm. Speaking of controversy, let's talk about the new global peacemaker. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has unveiled a new award for promoting global harmony, and the first recipient is none other than Donald Trump. When asked about the irony, Trump cited his doctrine of peace through strength and his track record of brokering meetings between hostile nations. Interestingly, this comes just as the U.S. prepares to host the 2026 World Cup. Trump has already been pressing FIFA on logistics, even controversially suggesting that certain Democrat-run cities might not be safe enough to host matches. It's a classic mix of sports, geopolitics, and leverage. Moving south, the situation in Venezuela is reaching a boiling point. The State Department has issued a directive urging all U.S. citizens to leave Venezuela immediately. This isn't just a standard advisory, it aligns with significant military maneuvering. With Tomahawk-equipped destroyers and carrier groups positioning in the region, the Pentagon is signaling that the window for diplomacy is closing. The administration has publicly labeled Nicolas Maduro a cartel leader. In response, Maduro is trying to rally a Latin American coalition to defend the region's sovereignty, claiming an invasion is imminent. This connects directly to a shift in relations with Brazil. Washington and Brasilia are finalizing a major security pact to combat transnational organized crime. But there is a geopolitical trade-off happening here. Reports suggest the U.S. is willing to lift Magnitsky Act sanctions against high-ranking Brazilian judicial officials in exchange for strategic economic access. We're talking about securing supply chains for rare earth minerals and energy resources for massive U.S. data centers. The Financial Times even recently named Brazilian Justice Alexander de Moraes a hero of democracy, signaling a clear attempt by Western media and governments to normalize relations with Brazil's leadership to secure leverage in the Western Hemisphere. This all ties into the newly released U.S. National Security Strategy. The White House has made it official. The focus is shifting away from Europe and toward Latin America and the Indo-Pacific. The document calls for a realignment of military presence. We've already seen 800 troops pulled from Romania, and the rhetoric is clear. Europe needs to handle its own defense. The U.S. is prioritizing the containment of Chinese influence in the Americas and preparing for competition in Asia. The strategy explicitly mentions Taiwan's semiconductor industry as a vital national interest and outlines a plan to counter Chinese expansion in the South China Sea through alliances like AUKUS. Regarding the Middle East, the administration is pushing Phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan. The immediate goal is the return of all remaining hostages. Once that is settled, the plan proposes the deployment of an international stabilization force, potentially including U.S., European, and Arab troops, to demilitarize the Strip. The proposal includes a peace council to oversee the transition, with technocrats managing the rebuilding process over the next few weeks. The demand for Hamas is total disarmament, starting with heavy weaponry. Whether this holds up on the ground remains the biggest question. Finally, we need to look at the Eurasian power bloc. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are holding high-level talks that seem very productive. Despite U.S. threats of sanctions, India continues to purchase Russian oil and defense systems, including the S-400. India is mastering the art of playing both sides, maintaining ties with Washington while deepening economic integration with Moscow using local currencies. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron is in China attempting ping-pong diplomacy 2.0. He's there to address a massive trade deficit and urge Beijing to pressure Russia on Ukraine. However, with Chinese electric vehicles flooding the European market and Beijing's diplomatic support for Moscow remaining firm, Macron's leverage looks limited. It is a chaotic time in global geopolitics, from the Caribbean to the South China Sea. If you want to stay ahead of the news with objective analysis, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.